What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another gaming session. Today, we are going to be getting into my top 10 worst games of 2023.
Hell, it's about time.
That's right, the worst games that came out this year and are truly stuck in my mind for all eternity. Well, not all eternity. I mean, honestly, this year was one of the toughest years to find games that just were absolutely atrocious, that were extremely terrible. I feel like this is easily one of the best years in gaming, and because of that, it's just finding games that were bad. It was just difficult, and there were a few that I kind of went back and forth on. But let me just start with my honorable mentions. The first one I'm going to start with is Gollum. And Gollum, honestly, isn't as bad as people like to make it out to be. I know Penguins hates this game very much for some weird reason, I guess. But the game, honestly, if you're high enough and you're chill enough, it's one of those games that you just kind of play as a side thing, you know, like you're playing a mobile game while waiting in a pharmacy or something like that. Gollum isn't meant to be taken seriously, and it was never meant to be like one of these incredible Lord of the Rings titles that people are going to remember forever. It's just a mediocre game, and that just has you playing as Gollum. And honestly, the kind of the character designs themselves and how Gollum looks like he's almost like a child who's aged like Benjamin Button somehow. He looks really, really goofy.
Looks like here you were caught in broad daylight on CCTV holding an AR-7.
To say the least. And the music actually isn't that bad. Minimal load times, to say the least, in a year where I can really complain about load times. But Gollum, it was okay, and it's not as bad as people want to make it out to be. But my number 2 honorable mention is going to be Walking Dead Destinies.
I love you, Carl.
This is another game that people, especially IGN...
Its horrendous graphics, weightless combat, repetitive mission design, and as many bugs as zombies reduce Destinies to the gaming equivalent of a biological hazard.
I think IGN knew that, hey, if we give these games like the worst scores imaginable, that it's just going to provide us a lot of clicks, and that's what it did. Walking Dead Destinies is a pretty mediocre game as well. It's not extremely terrible. Me and Rocky played through it, and we just kind of, we enjoyed it, and we're chill, and we typically will play games while we're smoking a little bit. So this was Walking Dead Destinies is one of those games that at least there was some things to it that made it a little bit interesting, kind of whether or not you send your... So essentially with Walking Dead Destinies is you can send different characters to go kind of do scenarios or missions, and then sometimes they would fail. It's like if you played Assassin's Creed Unity, it's similar to that where you don't actually get to experience the battle, you just kind of send them out, but you do get to play through the game, so... just like Assassin's Creed Unity. But Walking Dead Destinies, overall, not the worst game imaginable, but still pretty bad to mediocre game. Alright, so now we are going to be moving on to the top 10 worst games of 2023. Yeah. So, at number 10, I have Detective Pikachu.
Something tells me this is just the beginning.
Detective Pikachu, while this game feels like a Sherlock Holmes game for kids, that's exactly what it is. Actually, it's a game that I kind of wanted more from, though. I was kind of hoping that it was a little bit more difficult, like Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. That game is fairly difficult. I was hopeful for a challenge similar like that, but alas, we didn't get that, and it kind of sucks. But it's not the worst game imaginable, and honestly, if I was a kid, Detective Pikachu might be one of my favorite games, and it's definitely, it is for kids, but for adults, if you're into detective games, definitely Sherlock Holmes is amazing. Alan Wake 2 is my favorite game of the year of 2023. If you watched my top 10 games of 2023, you can go and check that out. But Detective Pikachu was a pretty mediocre to bad game, and I just didn't have much fun with it, sadly. Alright, so at my number 9 spot, it is Redfall. And Redfall is made by Arcane Studios, and it was a game that essentially a lot of people were trashing it from the jump, and it came out at a weird point in time. It came out in May, so it just right before summer started, and it's a game that's more like Halloween-esque. But it's essentially like an open world type game where you're fighting off vampires and then you're going through and upgrading. And it's like it's a light version of something that you would see from, like, I don't even want to say Borderlands, because Borderlands is a lot bigger than this game. And while Redfall is a game that I kind of hope on the side that it does get a sequel to it, because I feel like given more time, maybe a larger world and kind of building a base, a template for a future game is all right here, and a game that could potentially be a lot of fun. I really, really hope that this isn't it for Redfall, but sadly, because of how bad it performed and just the negative press around it and how many people really, really did not like this game, I feel like we won't get a sequel for Redfall, but it is one of the worst games of 2023, and that might be why. Alright, so moving on to my number 8 spot, and at my number 8 spot, I have Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Wolong is a game that when me and my brother Rocky, we kind of saw the trailer for it, we were hoping for a Sekiro type of game, and we got just a version of it. Like, this game is essentially not Sekiro, to say the least. It's a pretty mediocre to bad game. I actually would put it more on the bad side, just because of how many of these games essentially come out like they're like kind of clones of From Software games that typically, majority of them, never pan out. Like, Lies of P is probably the best one that was like Bloodborne or similar to Bloodborne, and it just turned out to be amazing. But this Wolong is just not that. Wolong is a terrible game. It just kind of, the environments are very bland, the bosses are very boring, and just the combat system in general is just very generic as well. Music isn't really that good, voice acting is pretty mid, and it's just a game that, personally, just spending a few hours playing it, felt like that was a chore in of itself, and I would not go back to this game ever again. And it's definitely one of the worst games of 2023, and it deserves the number 8 spot. All right, moving on to my number 7 spot, and this number 7 is going to be a game that honestly can be on this list every freaking year for the past probably decade. And I'm talking about Madden 24.
Madden sucks!
I know some people might sit there and say, why are you putting Madden on your top 10 worst games of 2023 when it can be one of the worst games of all like every year? And like I said, it can be. Like, it could be on my list every single year, and I might have to do that. Because I've been playing Madden ever since it came out on Nintendo 64. I've been playing it that long. I pretty much have bought the game every single year outside of this year.
But the sycophants and the diehards are still apparently buying it up every year.
And last year, I really regretted buying the game because I was like, okay, let me give them a chance. Maybe this isn't so bad, because the previous year I hadn't bought the game. I kind of just rented it, or I think I rented it or something like that. But Madden 24. It's just another lazy, poor attempt at NFL game that is just...
It's dog shit!
It spits on the grave of John Madden. That's what this game does. That's what EA continues to do. They continue to sit there and spit in the face... Well, John's gone, sadly. But John Madden was one of my favorite commentators of all time.
Yep, there's old Fetch Monster, Pat. We got him on the clicker, see? He comes in to get the tee. He misses, but he comes right back. And he jumps on that thing, gets the tee, takes it back to the sideline.
So, John Madden made sure that I think it was like 8 players on each side of the ball in the original concept for Madden. And John made sure that, no, you have to make sure it's 11 on 11. You have to make it like the actual NFL game. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have Madden. We wouldn't have, as big as Madden is right now, without John, it would not even come close to it. And I always respected and appreciated John Madden for not only the fact that he did that, but for also his commentary, and he's a legendary coach, and he's just an iconic figure in the NFL. And when they sit there and did the John Madden edition, it was just a way to sell the game without actually doing anything to honor the legend that was John Madden. And from that moment, I felt like they were going to spit on his grave every single year, get lazier and lazier, and people still buy it. And it's sad to see. And stop making frickin' excuses for him. Stop making frickin' excuses for this game. It's absolutely terrible. It's one of the worst sports games going right now, and people who continue to make excuses for this game, I have nothing but disdain for you, because this is one of my favorite sports franchises of all time, and you are the reason it never gets fixed.
It's gonna be the same thing. Everyone's gonna be like, oh, this is the best man ever.
But that's the reason why I have Madden NFL 24 and my number 7 spot. So at my number 6 spot, I have Bethesda Starfield. And Bethesda, oh, it all just works, and it's not a joke, right? It is a joke. Starfield's a joke. This game is, if you were one of the people who are smart enough to just get Game Pass maybe for a free month and play this game, yeah, you definitely are one of the, you're similar to me. Me and you are a lot alike. We refused to pay $70 for this game, and when it was coming out that it was broken essentially, and everybody was like, oh, a broken Bethesda game, you say? That's not shocking.
What has he got?
But Bethesda, of course, is going to sit there and claim that that's, like, even with them going back against people who were reviewing the game, who some of them were playing for 80 to 100 hours. I had done a video on this, which you can check on Gaming Sessions, but essentially, Bethesda was attacking the very customers that were sitting there making legit criticisms of the game. At that point, I said these people are lost. They all smell their own farts. They all think that they're they make the greatest games of all time, and they don't. And I'm happy that the modding community has given up on Starfield. Don't waste your time with it. Find something else to mod. There's got to be other games. There are got to be amazing games that you can mod that you don't have to feel like, why am I doing this? With Starfield, I feel like even playing it, why am I doing this, is a common question that I seem to have to ask myself, because it is that bad. I watched everything I possibly could on this game, and I got more and more excited for it. And when I finally got my hands on it, I regretted playing it and said, geez, I should have just not played it, and then just kept thinking, hey, maybe this game is really, really good. But then I wouldn't be a good reviewer, would I be? Yeah, Starfield is trash, and it's easily one of the worst games of 2023. All right, so moving on, we have at number 5, Atomic Heart.
Get the fuck off me!
Atomic Heart is a game that essentially, from the look of it, it looked like a Bioshock-esque style game, which I was hyped for. I am one of the biggest fans of the Bioshock trilogy. I absolutely love all 3 games and have played through them multiple times, and Atomic Heart looked like that was going to kind of feed that hunger for that style of game with an incredible story, and it wasn't that. So Atomic Heart was the first game developed by developer Mudfish. And for a first game, listen, it's impressive. For a first entry, it's really, really impressive. And they did put a lot of hard work and effort into this game. It's not for me. I think I had I expected it to be something like similar to BioShock, and it just kind of felt like a half-assed attempt version of BioShock. So at the end of the day, Atomic Heart just outside of it was the robot twins.
Here's your vehicle activation code, Comrade Major.
Got it.
The vehicle is waiting downstairs. You should hurry.
So, yeah. Atomic Heart is definitely deserving to be on the worst games of 2023. But, hey, who knows? Maybe Mudfish will make a second Atomic Heart, and that game will be even more amazing. It will be actually amazing, or live up to the hype that I kind of placed upon this game. But maybe not. Maybe this is the last game that we ever get from this developer. Who knows? So moving on to my number 4 spot, I have the Grey Hill Incident.
Which part? God, I hope they didn't start drilling into his teeth. Rachel!
And boy, oh boy, what I thought this game was going to be and what it turned out to be are completely different.
No! No, Henry!
I felt like when I heard about the Grey Hill Incident and I watched the initial trailer for it, I was really, really hoping for a game that dropped me into a world where essentially I live on a farm and it's extremely terrifying, similar to like the movie Signs, but just kind of taken up a level and just make aliens scary again. You know, I don't know what else to say with this game. It's just, it's not only broken, it just isn't, it's not scary, and it's not funny bad either. Grey Hill Incident is just one of the worst games of 2023 because of all the things that they could have done with something like this, they just took the worst parts of all the alien movies that you could possibly see, or just anything to do with aliens, like the worst ideas in general of what you could do with aliens in a video game. They took all of them. They took all the worst ideas and implemented them. Kudos to them for making one of the worst alien-based horror games I've ever sit there and played. But Grey Hill Incident is without question one of the worst games of 2023. Avoid this game at all costs. The developer, I don't believe they've made anything previous to this.
Don't you hear that I'm preaching? Stop interrupting me!
So the developer of Grey Hill Incident, if you can say the name, I think it's like Refugium. I think Refugium Games. I think that's how you say it. But they've only made one game. But Grey Hill Incident, it's a terrible game. Just avoid it. You don't need to play it. If you want, it's not even, like I said, it's not even funny bad. It's just a bad game, and easily deserved to be on the top worst games of 2023 list. Alright, so moving on to my number 3 spot, I have The Day Before.
Immerse yourself in The Day Before.
The Day Before, early access December 7.
Congratulations to the developer for making a game that was a scam from the jump and then panicking and releasing a game that was a scam from the jump, as everyone suspected. The Day Before is easily one of the worst games of all time. It's one of the craziest stories in gaming. But if you don't know about this game, because, you know, it essentially was taken off of Steam pretty quickly, and everyone was refunded, kudos to Steam for not only having the best return refund system in gaming, but also doing a service to the gamers by saying, hey, we already know about this trash game, we're going to give you your money back. The day before, essentially closed up shop pretty much immediately after releasing the game. And it was a game that essentially we saw like trailers and just kind of glimpses of it for the past, I think, 5 or 6 years. And then essentially they released it finally, and it was broken. I don't know a single person who defended this game. If you are one of those who defended it and not in an unironic way or not in a way for comedic purposes, I don't know what your taste in video games are, but it's terrible, and you should start to rethink your life. I see no reason why I should continue to talk about this game anymore after this. So let's just go in to my number 2 spot. Alright, so at my number 2 spot for worst games of 2023, I have Modern Warfare 3.
If this is the quality we've come to expect from Call of Duty campaigns, maybe it's for the best if a year or two is taken to reset and raise this low bar back to the heights of old.
There's no question that this is one of the worst cash grabs and most obvious cash grabs in the history of gaming. It is also a big double bird middle finger like Eli Manning would do to you.
You're getting the double bird right away from a 9-year-old kid. I would give the bird. I don't know. Can we do that?
To all the gamers and all the people who have been playing Call of Duty and supporting their nonsense and supporting their BS tactics.
It's gonna be the same thing. Everyone's gonna be like, oh, this is the best man ever.
Where they essentially take multiple things out. It's similar to Madden, by the way. And where they take multiple things out and then just kind of implement them in later versions. And just, they give you half-assed versions of Call of Duty now. And this is the most obvious attempt at that with Modern Warfare 3. This game was originally an expansion. The liars and the developers are lying. Like, these people are blatantly lying, okay? I've seen them sit there and try to defend this and say, oh, no, our developers just got it wrong. They're clearly not telling the truth.
It's dog shit!
Yeah, okay, the guy who has multiple $1-million homes is going to sit there and tell me, hey, don't trust the designers at all. They're the ones lying, not the guys who are sitting there making millions off of a game that was originally an expansion. And if you wanted any proof of that being the case, you just have to look at the campaign. The campaign is the shortest campaign in Call of Duty history. It's probably the shortest campaign in maybe first-person shooter game history, except for maybe the OG N64 first-person shooters and that. Hell, even GoldenEye is probably longer than this. Modern Warfare 3, easily one of the worst games of 2023. And the fact that they charge $70 is ridiculous, because the other games I'm talking about, some of them were indie games, some of them were like $50 or cheaper than that. Even the top game, my number 1 worst game of 2023, what I think was $40, $50, so it's at least $20 cheaper than what Modern Warfare 3 is. I don't know if this ever gets fixed, because what incentive do they have to ever fix this crap? They don't. They continue to sell these garbage games, and people continue to buy them up, and it's just a shame, which is why I have to move on.
If I don't talk to you, keep trucking.
We need to move on to my number 1 worst game of 2023. And my number 1 worst game of 2023, Rise of Kong Skull Island. This game is the new Superman 64, and it's not even close. I never thought in my wildest dreams that there would ever be a game that would ever be as bad as Superman 64. I said to myself, there's no freaking way anybody would ever release a game in that state. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong. Rise of Kong Skull Island is not only a broken game, but the game reuses assets like crazy. Like every single level, there's only small, little tiny things, little tiny details that are changed to make it, to give it the illusion that it's a different level, that it's different enemies that you're facing, even though they have all the same attacks. The jumping mechanic is absolutely stupid. The fact that you can't just jump. You literally have to line up Kong, and then you can release the button and you springboard into it. It's absolutely broken, a disaster. It's one of the worst games of 2023, but it's one of the worst games of all time. It is, to me, this might actually be, I really think this actually might be worse than Superman 64.
What?
When me and Rocky, we decided to play this game, knowing how bad it was going to be, I honestly didn't think it was going to be this bad. I thought it was going to be like a Gollum game or like Walking Dead Destinies, where it was going to be just kind of like bad to mid, somewhere in between there. And it just, it was worse than bad. It was worse than worse. It was worse than the disaster. This is the worst freaking game of all time. And
it's dog shit!
Hey, at least, Rise of Kong Skull Island was nominated for something this year and given an award for the worst game of all time.
Kiss my ass.
That's my list. That is my list of the worst games of 2023. As I said, it was a little bit difficult to find, like, the worst. Like, I had a set list of the worst games, but to kind of fill out the list or even to give honorable mentions, there was only a select handful of games that really, really deserve the honor of worst games of 2023. And I really, really am curious to hear from you. What do you think of my list? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? What are your worst games of 2023? Definitely let us know in the comments down below. Also, down below, you'll find a description where me and my brother Rocky's all socials are located. Also, if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to hit the bell, for notifications so you'll miss out on future videos from us. And thank you so much for chilling with me and Rocky throughout the entire year. You guys have been amazing, and it's been awesome to see our channel grow throughout 2023. And here is to 2024. And I hope you all have an amazing New Year's and just have an incredible 2024 year. And let's all just try to stay positive, get the best games out possible, and hopefully 2024 is one of the even better for video games than 2023. All right, so thank you so much. We'll see for chilling with me, and I'll see you all in the next gaming session.
I stay out of my head to the depths of the universe. It's a spell or a chance just to open up a newer curse. If I swim too far, then my head goes under. If we take it as it is, then there ain't no wonder. It's hard to imagine that